echoes of the battlefield, in the dry heat of northern Nigeria, where the winds carried dust and secrets. A soldier named Captain Bala Adamu stood tall among his peers, broad-shouldered, dark-skinned, and soft-spoken. He was respected not only for his military prowess, but also for the way he loved. His wife, Amina, their story was one many in the village of Kurgwi whispered about with admiration. Bala and Amina had met in their youth. Amina, with eyes like twilight and a spirit unbroken by hardship, had always been drawn to Bala's quiet strength. He was her protector, her friend, her first and only love. When Bala was recruited into the army, she was the one who tied his boots, pressed his uniform, and prayed for his safe return every time he was deployed. Their love was like the baobab tree, rooted deep, weathering storms and droughts. They wrote letters in Hausa, laced with sweet nothings and prayers. And whenever he returned, they would sit by the fire, fingers intertwined, as he recounted tales of his deployments and the battles he'd survived. But then came the long war, a brutal conflict in the east against insurgents. It was unlike any Bala had fought in before. The letters stopped coming. Months turned into a year, then two. The war swallowed him, and Kurgwi heard nothing. Amina waited. She wore the same blue wrapper every Friday, the one he said made her look like the Queen of Zaria. She lit a candle at the mosque. Every day, she hoped, she prayed, she believed, but whispers crept into her home. He's gone. He's never coming back. You are still young, Amina. Under pressure from family and elders, and with a heart bruised by loneliness, Amina remarried. The man, Yusuf, was kind and soft-spoken, a widower with 2 children. He did not try to replace Bala, but offered Amina something she hadn't felt in years: companionship. Then, one dusty Harmattan morning, a man arrived in Kurgwi. It was Bala. His uniform hung loosely on his frame. His face was worn, bearded, and his eyes, once gentle, now burned with the pain of everything he had seen and lost. He had survived captivity, betrayal, injury. He had clawed his way back to life, fueled by the dream of holding Amina again. But when he stepped into his compound, he found it changed. Children he didn't recognize ran in his yard. A man's slippers stood at the doorway, and Amina, she stood there, stunned, her hands trembling, a baby on her back. Bala, she whispered. He did not answer. His gaze flicked from her to the child, to the stranger who stepped forward protectively. Everything inside him shattered. Bala stood frozen at the threshold of what used to be his world. The sun beat down on his shoulders, but it was not the heat that made him sweat. It was the sight before him, the woman he had clung to in his darkest hours, now holding another man's child. Yusuf stepped forward, cautious. Are you Captain Bala? Bala nodded, his eyes locked on Amina. Her lips parted, as if to speak, but no words came. Guilt, fear, and old love swirled in her chest like a storm. Please, she said softly, come inside. Let's talk. But Bala didn't move. His voice, when it came, was hoarse. Talk. After everything, the villagers gathered, watching silently from the shadows of their compounds. Words spread like Harmattan fire. The dead soldier has returned. Some murmured blessings. Others shook their heads, pitying the man whose home had been claimed by time. Amina's mother arrived, her gray headscarf flapping in the wind. She touched Bala's arm gently. We thought you were gone. There was no word. Not even the army knew. Bala's fist clenched. I fought for this country, for this village. I was captured. I buried my friends. I dreamed of this place, of her. He pointed at Amina. Every night. He turned to Amina, pain twisting his features. I didn't die, Amina, but something inside me just did. He walked away. Days passed. Bala stayed in a small hut near the river, a place his grandfather once lived. Alone, silent. Villagers brought him food, but he barely ate. Children whispered that he cried at night, the sounds of war still haunting him. Amina visited him once. She sat beside him without speaking. After minutes of silence, she placed a small box beside him. It contained his letters, faded, worn, tear-stained. "I kept them," she whispered. "All of them." He didn't touch the box. "Did you keep your promise to?" She bowed her head. "I waited for you, Bala. For 2 years. I begged the army. I asked your commander. They said you were gone. They sent a letter declaring you missing, presumed dead." She took a breath. "I remarried not because I stopped loving you, but because I thought I was burying a ghost." Tears slipped from Bala's eyes, but his face remained cold. "You buried me too early." Weeks passed. Yusuf, understanding the weight of the past, offered to step aside. But Amina refused. "I chose to move on. I won't undo what's been done, but I want to make peace." Bala didn't speak to either of them again. Instead, he left the village. He wandered for years, from Kaduna to Maiduguri, even across the border into Chad. He took odd jobs, sometimes worked with the Red Cross, sometimes simply vanished into the wilderness. He never stayed long anywhere. The war had taken his comrades, and love had taken his home. In the town of Gwoza, he met a widow named Halima. She was strong like Amina, but colder. She'd lost everything in a raid: children, husband, her farm. Bala understood her silence. She understood his rage. They didn't fall in love, not in the traditional sense, but they needed each other. Over time, they built something, a bond forged in scars and silence. Halima tended to Bala's wounds, both seen and unseen. In return, he helped rebuild her life. Together, they taught children in the village, started a small security outfit, and spoke against the horrors of war. 5 years later, Bala returned to Kurgwi one last time. He wore civilian clothes, and his beard was gray. The village had changed. Children born after his departure now played where he once trained with his father's machete. He visited his old compound. Yusuf and Amina's youngest son was playing outside. Bala looked at him. His eyes, his nose, it resembled his own. He realized something then. Not all wars are fought with guns. Some battles are in the heart. He didn't knock on their door. He simply placed a package at the entrance. It contained his medals, a final letter, and a photo of him and Amina from years ago, young, smiling, unbroken. Then he walked away again. But this time, he walked lighter. Bala died many years later in a small northern village, buried beneath the tree he and Halima had planted. Locals say he died in peace, teaching children how to read, telling stories of honor, love, and loss. Amina never forgot him. Sometimes, at dusk, she would sit outside her home and whisper his name to the wind. And in the hearts of those who knew his tale, Captain Bala Adamu lived on, not as a soldier of war, but as a warrior of love, memory, and survival.